Oh, yeah, that makes a difference. There's a factor of luck. There's a factor of opportunity. But for sure, the mistakes, if you do them, then you will suffer the consequence, because this is more deterministic. So first, who am I? Um, I started indeed in the game industry in 1996, actually, as an employee of Ubisoft, and that back then was the logo of Ubisoft. It was written in 2 words. I started as a programmer. I stayed there for about 8 years, but somehow the door was not open within that corporation for me to become anything else than a programmer, and I had other ambitions. I also wanted to fulfill the dream of running a business, so eventually I did. In 2003, I went to Bangkok. Yeah. Okay. Okay, where was I? I was there. Yeah. I went to Bangkok to start up a studio. Why Bangkok? Why Thailand? Well, I was in France originally, and that was a place where the cost of operation was high, and I was not carrying very much of an added value to start a business in France and be successful. So I thought my best shot would be to go anywhere where the cost of operation would be cheap. And back then, over there, it was really cheap. Um, and start an outsourcing business. We ended up developing a number of casual games and arcade games on all of the systems, because I tried a bit of everything with different amount of success. Eventually, at some point back in 2016, we embarked onto bigger, more ambitious game development, full 3D, photorealistic, etc. I grew up the studio to a large amount of people, which means around 30, but then it wasn't successful, and after that I had to cease operations. And eventually I rebooted the studio as a smaller outfit, doing arcade games again, and that is the latest game we have released, which is called Nova Strike. So that's where I am right now. So the mistakes. Well, I tried to kind of categorize them into multiple categories. Yeah. Well, business mistakes, strategic mistakes. So that's one category. Then marketing mistakes, product mistakes. That would be another category. And then HR and management mistakes. That would be the last category. So let's see what I have time to cover today. Okay. Well, the thing is, when you start a business, you might make the mistake of not really thinking out why you do it. Basically, in the Maslow pyramid that I have represented in this slide, you have the need for survival, the need for safety, and then after that, on top of that, you have the need for self-realization. And when you start a business, it is likely that this is the need you are trying to fulfill. It's like that was my case anyway. I was a programmer at Ubisoft. I was not really happy with what I was doing. Not that Ubisoft is a bad company by any mean, but it's just that I didn't, I hadn't found my role to fulfill myself. And so when you start a business, somehow you will jeopardize the lower levels of the pyramid, namely the survival and safety, in order to try and get them back while also getting the third level of the pyramid, the self-realization. So you just have to be clear with yourself of what is it that you want to achieve. Will you realize yourself by making a game that is really yours? Will you realize yourself by proving that you can run successfully a business? Do you actually have an ambition to earn more money than you would as an employee? If that was my ambition, I kind of failed. So You just have to think about that well, because the thing is that along the ride, you will always have to assess whether it makes sense to keep doing it. I was there for at multiple times during the 20 years ride that I have had. Like, okay, I'm struggling a lot. It's running, but I would have such an easier life as an employee while not being significantly less rich. So why am I doing it? And of course, this can change along the time, because in 10 years from now, you will be another person from what you are now, and you will have other needs. But still, you have to be clear. I mean, the ride is not easy, and you have to be clear about what makes you do it, and what are the conditions that will make you continue, what are the conditions that will make you call it quit. So that's one thing. Yeah, I started a business without a clear business focus. For me, yeah, I wanted to prove myself that I could run a business. I wanted to do something else, have a wider scope of action than just being a programmer. But I didn't really have a product in mind that I would want to bring to the market. I eventually ended up fishing for small outsourcing deals and doing a collection of very, very small projects. So here you have some editing tools, you have some QA, you have a Flash game, if anybody remembers what that is, on the Star Wars franchise, Game Boy Advance game localization that we did. And well, that was a problem. I think running an outsourcing shop telling, hey, I can do everything, just give me projects, didn't work out. The problem is exposed in this complex chart. So you are not specialized, and when you are not specialized, the only selling point you have is to be cheap, which I was, because I was based in Thailand. And even when you are cheap, you don't have a lot of business opportunities, so you don't have a lot of income. And the opportunities that you find, of course, because you're not specialized, each new project will be completely different from whatever you have been doing in the past. And so that means you have a learning curve that the staff must face every time. They have to learn new hardware, new software, new languages, whatever. And when you expose your staff to that, your staff doesn't see what sense it makes to them in terms of career vision, in terms of skills that they acquire and on which they specialize, which allows them to market themselves. So that doesn't work towards them being very motivated, just like the learning curves will also put them off. So that means that the staff will generally not stay very long. They will try it a bit and then find another job. So also, because you have a low income, you don't have the ability to offer competitive salaries, so that also doesn't help keeping the staff. And because you have this all staff turnover and recruiting new staff all the time, you also cannot specialize and acquire skills, because every new staff must relearn the whole thing. So that is the problem that you get without a clear business focus. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that if you have a clear business focus, you can say, I am set and nothing else will change, because we are a very much changing industry in which, I mean, during the 20 years that I have been on board as an entrepreneur, there have been tremendous changes, and there still will be. And at some point, I mean, it's practically certain that whatever you're doing now that works will not be working like it does today in 10 years. So at some point you have to pivot, you have to find the next opportunity, etc. And this is something that I kind of mishandled. The first thing that I did, I mean, it was the beginning of mobile phones for the masses. Like everybody started having their own phones, but back then it was not smartphones. It was the picture you can see on the left here. Actually, I took this picture. This is all of the phones, not even all of them actually, but most of the phones that I had bought back then in order to try and do mobile game development, because I'm like, okay, I will embark on that train and do that, and I will find business opportunity in that. The thing is that the market was not really ready for mobile games. At that time, the reason why I bought all of these phones is that basically you had to make one build for each phone because it was not really intercompatible. So you had a lot of effort into game development. The resulting quality of games was not that good that people would like to play them. And the market to sell games, there was no Apple Store or Google Play. It was all through the mobile phone carriers who wanted to 70% for themselves and only 30% for the content provider. So they hadn't understood that this wouldn't work. So the market was not ready. It was a bubble that lasted a few years. So the thing you must be wary is to not jump onto a bubble. When there's something new, you have to assess whether it makes sense in the long term or it will be a bubble. So this was the bubble I jumped on, and it was a mistake on my part. I could avoid the idea much more recently of jumping onto NFTs and blockchain and whatever, because that, in my view, is also a bubble, but I didn't jump. So I kind of got wider on that. The next thing I had done, actually, and that was the right move at the time, is to try to get license on consoles with Nintendo first. Actually, I tried with Sony and with Nintendo, but at the time, Sony was the leader of the market by far with the PlayStation 2, and they were very selective in the new studio that they embarked. And to me, they told me, oh, you're a small studio, you're based in Thailand. Where is that? Yeah, no, we don't license you. We just work with Japan, Europe, whatever. So they told me no. And Nintendo, everybody at the time thought they were going to die because they were just out of a console that had failed, which was called the GameCube. And so when I asked them about getting licensed on the Nintendo DS, which nobody believed into, they told me yes. They told me yes, sure, there you go. And it turned out that on that generation, the DS was the winner of the market share. And by the time everybody realized that, then everybody tried to get licensed by Nintendo. But at that time, Nintendo had closed the tap, and I was inside already. So that was the best year of business that I had, really. I could charge 50,000 euros for a Sudoku, and publishers would buy. So that was great. And then I raised the team. I increased the team size. I bought many development kits, and I thought that was it. My business was on tracks. It would be running and grow and so on. I had not anticipated the next need to pivot. In 2008-9, that's where iOS and Android came in. And the mobile game market was going to become a thing. Not only to become a thing, but actually to become the main thing. But at that point, I was so busy with Nintendo project that I kind of looked at that and ignored it. I was like, okay, I'm earning well with Nintendo projects. I'll look at that later. The thing is that this killed that. I mean, the time where a consumer would buy for 30 euros a Sudoku game on Nintendo DS disappeared in a year when the same Sudoku game was $1 on iPhone, and then the next year was for free, and you would even pay people to come and play your games. So by the time I realized that this was no longer what it was going to be, and publishers were not willing to pay premium anymore for any game development, it was a little bit too late to embark on that. I mean, the market was already crowded, and I could never, in the rest of my business years, really get a success on mobile gaming. So yeah, one mistake that I have made also, I kind of thought that being a small studio was not really workable because of the fixed costs of doing business development, going to trade shows, and I needed to have a critical size in order to be interesting and also to get bigger projects. So I kind of wanted to hire and grow the team, and I got caught in a cycle where, when you have a large team, you have to struggle to find business opportunities. And again, that's the graph I had already shown, where because you need so much to get business opportunities, you will accept deals that you eventually shouldn't have accepted. And I think really the best advice that I can give in that regard is that you shouldn't grow the team before you get a good value per person and a steady business flow in order to avoid that trap. Right. So, well, outsourcing. That comment was related to outsourcing. What if you publish your own game now? Well, the most obvious mistake that I think many studios will do is to misunderstand exactly how much amount of money they need in order to get into the business. It is easily more than you can think if you haven't thought it thoroughly. First, you have to do the pre-production of your first game. So for 3 months, 4 months, I don't know, sometimes much more than that, you will kind of refine the concept of what you want to do a proof of concept, to do a first playable. I mean, when you start a new studio, in some cases, this is time that is not paid for because this is people who do it on their free time before they really start incorporate and start production. Well, then you start production. Production lasts a certain time, so it's easy to underestimate how much time you need to produce all of the contents. But anyway, you get there, you finish your game, then you have the whole debug and submission process, which again, I mean, nowadays there is Unity, there is Unreal, so you can easily do multi-platform development, but that doesn't mean you can easily do debug and submission just once for all platforms. That still isn't the case. We release games on PS5, Xbox Series, Nintendo Switch, PC. I can tell that the debug process has very specific things for each platform. So that's something you have to account for, and it lasts a couple of months. Then once you submit, there will be a delay before your game starts being on the market. That's the start of sale. And then the royalties are quarterly. Thank goodness now the royalties, you get them right from the first quarter. I knew a time at the time of the Nintendo Wii where they had a threshold of 10,000 units before they start payment, but that is no longer the case. But even then, it means there can easily be 1 quarter plus whatever other time it takes for them to start paying you. And that means you will start making up the money you have spent at that point. But then there is a delay, of course, before you can recover all of the money you have spent if the game is successful. And during all of that time, your team must work on the next project, unless you just dismiss your team and cash out. But generally, that is not the business project that people are having. So it means that you must fund the second game while your first game hasn't really recovered its expense. So basically, you kind of need the cash to produce 2 games, one after the other, in order to be able to run your business. Yeah, tying assets with liabilities. That's one important thing. So one of the reasons that I was able to continue the business up to today was that I didn't do that. Basically, I had a company in Thailand where I hired people and paid salaries, and I had a company in France where I maintained relationship with Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, etc. And I published my games. And then I could manage to separate both things and keep my company in France when I had to reboot my studio in Thailand. The reason why I did that at first was not even that. It's a matter of luck that I managed to organize things that way. At first, I just had the studio in Thailand, but when I pivoted from outsourcing to publishing by myself, I found out that doing that from Thailand was not really workable, just because actually of corruption in the revenue department. I mean, at that time, in order to have relationship as a publisher with Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, etc., you had to activate tax treaties between your country of residence and their country of business. And activating tax treaties was requiring signature from revenue department officers. And I had a very hard time with revenue department officer in Thailand, from which I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be a publisher, it will not be from Thailand. So that was my rationale at first, but eventually it helped for that. The other thing is that I spent 18 years in Thailand. Now I am living in France while still managing the team in Thailand distantly, because now we are a work from home studio. The the reason for this change is something that I did not choose, actually. I was actually deported from Thailand and I cannot go there anymore. Not related to my business, but related to the fact that I had a loud mouth on social media about matters of politics and society, and this is not a democracy. So they didn't like that. Yeah, again, if I hadn't organized my business where I could keep my assets nonetheless, I would no longer be here. So, yeah, of course, you have to choose very carefully whom you partner with. That is in the event that you have the opportunity to choose, which you don't always have, because again, if you grow the headcount to be too big and you really need projects and you accept the wrong projects, then you can be in trouble. I would say, yeah, of course, you have to be in a position to pick your clients. What you want is clients who have a good business vision and a good business position, because if they succeed, they will have business for you. If you're an outsourcing shop, you want to work with clients who will succeed and who will give you further business. The thing is that getting a new client is incredibly hard and costly. You must make connections, you must gain their trust, etc. You don't have that many clients at an outsourcing shop, so you must really nurture the relationship with every one of them. And the fact is that well, I mean, obviously, first there are clients who are not trustworthy and who will screw you by intent. And of course, you have to maintain informal contacts with peers in the game industry in order to identify who they are, who these people are that you should avoid working with. Then there are clients who are honest, but who will not be successful in business. And if they will not be successful in business, then they will not make your business successful either. So you have to be wary of that. I would also say that an important point is, in fact, who is your contact point and whose trust you gain at a client. I would say it's better to have a small company as a client when you have trust from the CEO than having a large corporation as a client where you have trust from some middle manager and the CEO doesn't even know you. Because at some point, some shit will happen in that company and the first expendable will be you. I mean, people will protect themselves by blaming you. It could also happen that some people in large companies who have a good reputation will kind of abuse the reputation of the company they work for in order to try and squeeze a deal out of you that they shouldn't. Yeah, there was one case I remember of a company, so I'm not sure if I can tell their name, but let's say it starts with Square and it ends with Enix. People, I don't know if they're still working there, but they were looking for a studio who would make a mobile port of one of their classic games. And they were telling me, they were thinking they were on Fiverr. They were telling me, well, you do the work, and if we like it, then we buy it from you. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's hard to say no because it's a really renowned and beloved brand, and people in the team would love to work on that. But I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't have trust from anybody at C-level in that company. I just have a contact with a middle manager whom I don't know who they are in the company. What trust do they get from their management? So of course, I didn't go for it. Yeah. That was for outsourcing. For publishing, well, the advice is about the same. It's just that, well, first, I mean, there's an incredible amount of publishers who will try and screw you, because if what it takes to salvage their business is to stop royalty payments to content providers, that's just what they will do. So I have experienced that. The other thing is that among publishers who are honest, you have to find a publisher who's the right fit for your game. Like the audience they usually target is the audience that your game targets, and the kind of project they usually manage with is the project that is consistent with the project that you're doing. If you're doing a small game and they are used to promoting bigger games and they will take your small game on the side just because it looks cool, etc., chances are that they will not put their best resources and their best efforts onto your game, even though that's what your game needs. So you must be wary of that. And of course, wrong business partners. I mean, I started alone. Twice I tried to partner with people, well, without jeopardizing my main business, thankfully, but twice it went wrong. I think I made the same mistake twice, so shame on me. But you have to really know and trust somebody before you partner with, because it's kind of a stronger link than a wedding. You're really sharing finances and strategic vision and everything, so you have to be careful. I would also say that it depends on your own personality. Some people can have partners in business. Some people just are better on their own. Um, okay, I think for business and strategic business mistakes, I am done. Yeah, the rest will be quicker because I just have 20 something minutes. Marketing and product mistakes. Yeah, of course, when you develop games, you have to think about which platforms you will put your game on. Yeah, it's easy to think, well, nowadays with Unity and Unreal, you can just target all of the platforms without too much cost. Well, it is not quite true, as I have already mentioned. There still is an additional cost per platform, but more importantly, yeah, you have to see what makes sense and what doesn't. What is the target audience on each platform? For example, consoles are for gamers, mobile are for casual users. So you have to take care of that. You have to see, of course, if it is the right time to target a platform. I mean, ideally, when a new console starts in the market, you want to be there as soon as possible, because there are people who will buy this console when there is not too much content on it, and they will have basically money to spend on whatever content there is, and that can include yours. It will be easier than when the console software market is crowded. But at the same time, if your game is, let's say, casual, and you're targeting a very new console when it comes out, and this console is first bought by hardcore users, it might not be a fit. One thing about console and mobile, so you kind of have to make a choice whether you target one of the other or the other. It's not likely that the same game can fit on both, because first, because of the control system, which is not the same at all. Second, because of the business model, which is not the same at all. I mean, you have premium on one hand, free to play on the other hand, and the game must really be designed from the start for one or the other. It can't really be converted from one to the other easily. And if your game is free to play, so in the public's mind it is free anyway, on mobile, and people see that, they will not buy it on Steam or on console, because they feel like, I mean, first, anybody who owns a console also owns a mobile phone and a PC, so they will have choice, and they will be like, yeah, why should I take this game on a platform where it is paid, where I can get it for free there? So you have cannibalization. So your game idea, and that's a tough one, but I think the hardest part of the equation to crack for an indie game development studio is to be noticed. I mean, of course, the people you want to be noticed by are the consumers who will buy your game. It doesn't help that the media covers your game if this doesn't translate into sales. But still, for your game to even be exposed to the consumers, for people to see it, for consumers to see it, it kind of needs to have some exposure ahead, either from the media or from the platforms. And well, if your game is a clone of something that already exists, then what is your selling point that will make people instantly think, oh, hey, that is cool. If I'm a media, then I will talk about it. if I'm a consumer, then yeah, this attracts me. In my experience, for example, I made a clone of Bomberman back in the days that I called Bombing Bastards. And while Nintendo accepted the title, Sony and Microsoft rejected the titles because it contains a profanity. And I had incredible amount of press coverage just about that. So the people heard about the game. It's sold moderately though, because again, yeah, that makes people hear about the game. That doesn't necessarily make people want to buy the game. But I think all in all, it still brought the game exposure that it wouldn't have gotten without that. So that's one thing. You have to find a way to make people want to talk about your game. And that's an important point. Now, one thing you can think of is to license a brand. Like, okay, if my game doesn't have a name, I will license a brand that everybody knows, and then my game will be easily identified by the public as being a game of that brand, and they want to buy it first. So that's, I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad idea. This can be a good idea, but you must think it thoroughly because there are many pitfalls. First, I mean, the fact that your game is branded does not automatically mean that it will be more visible to consumers, that platforms will push it more, or anything like that. Second, acquiring a brand costs money, not just because you have to pay the brand's licensor to use their brands, but also because you have to do some business development just to look for brands and see which brands are available on the market, which licensors are willing to license the brand, in which condition can you make it work between you and them, and that's a lot of time and effort to spend. And when you choose a brand, you want to be careful about, I would say, two things. One thing is a brand can be very much known by everybody, but exciting to nobody. Like if I am in France, I would say a Renault Twingo. If I am in Germany, Volkswagen Golf. Like everybody knows what it is, but nobody is excited about it. You want to avoid that kind of brand. You also want to avoid a brand that doesn't really make sense for your product. And you have to be aware of the negative perception, because I mean, brands have some positive perception, of course, but there's always, I mean, you take any brand out there, there's always people who dislike it. And so there is a part of licensing a brand that will actually alienate part of your public. I had this experience. I made a crossword game on Nintendo DS and then on mobile, and my idea was like, okay, you know, a no-name crossword game will not sell, so crosswords are usually in newspapers, so I will license newspaper brands. So I managed to license newspaper brand in the UK with the Telegraph, the Sun, the Times, in Germany with Die Welt. I did not manage in France because the newspaper brands in France were not interested. And all in all, it is in France that I sold more copies. The thing, I could have thought about it right from the start, but a newspaper brand is a typical example of a brand that you don't want to license, because newspapers are segmented by ideology, left-wing or right-wing, by level of education, whether it is a tabloid or it is something for people who aspire at being more educated. And all in all, even if you take the most popular newspaper brand in a country, you will find more people who hate it than people who love it. Case in point, The Sun in the UK. So that's one thing you have to consider. Lastly, about brand license pitfalls, you have to be aware. You have to be aware that people will not license your brand their brands to you forever. They will say like, okay, you are allowed to sell your games for 2 years after its release, and after that you must withdraw it from the market unless you make a new deal. So that also limits your opportunity of selling. Okay, localization. Yeah, if you go to any trade show, you will have somebody talk to you about localization. You can have talks about localization. All of these are made by localization companies who want to sell their business. I would say, well, they will tell you, there's so many more people you can target if you localize, that you really should do it. It's not that expensive. You should do it. Well, I mean, it is true that if you have a mainstream product which will be successful, then you should localize it. The thing is, first, localization isn't cheap at all. It's not just the cost of translation. It's the cost of preparing your game engine and your game system for being able to accept different texts with different length, different character sets, etc. It is the fact of QAing all of that to see in which language do you have a display problem on each platform. It is the fact of checking whether the translation makes sense once it is integrated in the game, etc., etc. So it is more cost than you think. The other thing is that if you have a niche game and in certain genres, localization may not matter as much as you think. The Bomberman clone that I had developed that was called Bombing Bastards. In fact, I made it in English, French, English, French, Spanish, German, and Italian. And the country in which it sold best is Japan. And by all means, every localization professional will tell you you cannot sell anything in Japan if it's not translated in Japanese. People will not buy anything if it's not translated in Japanese. Well, bullshit. Actually, it is true if you're talking about mainstream products. Like you won't have a million seller in Japan if it's not in Japanese. So far that is true. But in small niche products like that, which get interest from small communities, those communities are interested enough in the genre so that they will take products that are not localized and look into it. It really depends on your product, its target markets, etc. But I would say if you're a small indie studio with limited means, probably you want to spend your time and effort into making a good game rather than into localizing something that has not yet been proven anyway in terms of gameplay quality, contents, etc. And the other thing is that one experience that I had is paying for translation in many languages, integrating them, etc. And when a review comes up like, yeah, don't play the Italian version, choose the English language even if you're Italian, because the Italian version is so bad. And I'm like, okay, what have I been paying for exactly? So yeah, I mean, the point is either you have the budget and the means to do it right, or you don't do it. Right. Next, let me check the time. Yeah, okay, 12 minutes. Okay. Your marketing efforts. So what should you care about? Well, of course, you will give game keys to reviewers, to YouTubers, to streamers, and they will review your game, stream your game. To be honest, it's rare that these people have a lot of audience, so it's rare that they would be able to bring you a lot of traffic. You will just do it anyway, but yeah, I mean, this is not likely to make a difference. Advertising your game, well, some people try that, but I would say advertising is extremely costly. The cost of a sale is certainly more than the money you make from the sale. It can make sense in some cases where you think that it will cause people to wish list your game and then cause the algorithm in Steam to pick up your game and promote it. But in other cases, just for the result of sales themselves, it is not likely to make sense. Really, the one thing that matters is platform exposure. Whether the platform picks up your game, promotes it. If you get a deal, like I could get deals in the past, for example, with PlayStation, for my games to be on PlayStation Plus, for my games to be in PlayStation Now on streaming, and that is really, I mean, if anything can make a difference in your business, it's that. The problem is that you have no control over it. It is the platform's editorial team who likes your game or not. The only thing you can do is to meet up people from the platforms in trade shows and talk to them and get acquainted to them so that they can look at your product, so that they be more likely to look at your product after that. That's what I did with Google. I could get some exposure with Google Play. It didn't really help in the end because my product was not right for that. But yeah, if I had had the right product after having that contact, then probably I would be better off today. Next, yeah, the one super important thing is the store appearance. Don't neglect that. Your icon must stand out from all of the icons, and the title of your game has to be descriptive. I mean, it's not. Of course, if your game is big, then it doesn't matter if the title is descriptive because people will get to hear about it anyway. But if you have an indie game that comes out of nowhere, chances are that many people will just see it from the store and have not heard about it before. And if the title doesn't tell them what the game is, they are just likely to overlook it. So choose a name for your game that when people read it, people will know what it is, will have an idea of what it is, and choose an icon that stands out from the crowd. That is important. Okay, next and last, HR and management mistakes in 9 minutes. So, well, recruitment. Because you are strapped with cash, you feel like, okay, I'm gonna hire somebody if I get this project. Well, it doesn't work like that. The thing is that the time it takes to hire doesn't work with starting looking for people at the start of a project. You must hire ahead. And because if you don't, then you will be so much in need for people that you will have to take whatever person there is who applies to you, and you will have to lower your expectations, and that doesn't work in the long run. Personality must fit with team. So that's one mistake I made. At first, I was like, okay, I'm just assessing people skills with tests and etc. And we will see. And I remember my producers telling me, yeah, this guy, yeah, okay, he's good technically, but we don't think he will work in the team. And I was like, we need somebody. He's good technically. We hire him. And he stayed like a week, and indeed, it was so bad. So I felt like, yeah, maybe I should have listened to them. In my case, it's because I was in Thailand, and I kind of didn't have the cultural background to understand why this guy wouldn't fit in the team. But when that is the case, you just have to trust your people. Salary consistency. Yeah, one mistake I made in the past is that I felt like I was kind of not finding all of the management skills I wanted to have for middle management in Thailand. So I brought people from Europe into Thailand to put as middle managers in my studio. And because obviously the salaries in Europe are higher than in Thailand, I made a difference. So if you're a European, this is going to be your salary scale. If you are Thai, this is going to be your salary scale. Well, how stupid was I? That was never going to go well with the team. So you have to, if you can't afford to pay everybody the same level of salary, then don't raise the level of salaries. I mean, don't raise it for specific people without a good reason. And being European or Thai is definitely not a good reason. Staff management. So yeah, the thing is, people. This I think I managed right actually. Fellow Thai entrepreneurs told me, "Hey, your team is slacking. You could get more from your team." And I'm like, yeah, but if I get more, if I push my team too hard, given that I cannot push the salaries too high, I guess people will resign more. And in the long run, that proved correct. Of course, you cannot allow your team to slack to the point where the output is not there, but you must recognize as an entrepreneur that from the position you are in and what you're able to offer to your team in terms of salaries and working conditions, this is what you can reasonably expect. And don't push them too hard, because this is a factor of them resigning. And again, staff turnover is incredibly costly. It generates cost of hiring, it generates costs of training, etc., loss of experience. So be wary of that. Yeah, I also made the stupid mistake to delegate some key area without oversight. Namely, I have like administrative phobia. So when I saw that my assistant was competent at managing administration, finance, etc., I delegated more to her, and competent and trustworthy. The problem is that she could kind of see that I was not checking everything in detail, and she abused it. And first she starting stealing petty cash, and then she started making bigger shit to kind of try and cover the petty cash that she had stolen. And by the time I realized what she was doing, and I unrolled the whole things she had been building behind my back, and how much it cost me to fix everything, that was a big mistake. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the last slide actually, so I will be able to finish in time. Yeah, as a manager, you really have to know your role. I mean, there's many things to take care of in a small business. The strategy of the business, as I said, the need to pivot and pivoting to the right thing. So you have to watch out what's going on. You have to have time and availability for that. The business development, finding clients, etc. The business process assessment, what's not right, what is the bottleneck in the team, etc. The production management, so following up with tasks of everybody, see how it's going. The HR, so hiring, dismissing when you have to, etc. And these are areas that, as a business owner, you really have to get hands-on with. But somehow, if you started in the game industry, it might be also because you aspire at creative direction, getting hands-on into product development. The problem is that you will only have very limited availability for that, and if you've spent too much time and effort in that, it will be at the cost of neglecting some of the areas that are listed above and that are critical for any business. If really your focus is more about product and creative than about business, then probably you shouldn't be a business owner, or at least not alone, not without a partner who takes care of that. Right. So what time is it now? It is yeah. I'm 3 minutes early. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan. It was very right. We have several minutes for the questions. Please, yeah, here.
Okay, hello. I have a question about your start of this career. As I understood, you started developing your own games as a developer, and then you moved to a studio. So what was the move? Did you just hire a team and became a manager, or did you hire a manager? Can you just give us more light?
I started as an employee of Ubisoft as a programmer during almost 8 years, and then I wanted to grow beyond that. So I started a studio. I moved from France to Thailand, and then I just invested reasonably low amount of money back then just to get the right to be a foreign business owner in Thailand. And I hired at first 3 people, and then I tried to get deals, and I got the small deals I could get started with. And we went into full cycle game developments a little bit later, actually, when we went on mobile and then on Nintendo DS.
So you just stopped development on your own. You became a manager, right?
Yeah.
Like business. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you very much for your speech. It was quite a journey, I must say, including being deported from Thailand. Yeah, I just wanted to ask about marketing. Just also always wondering, big players, big companies now like pretty often use some celebrities, for example, to advertise their games. Like, would you do the same, for example, if you have such opportunity, or do they just have like some extra money, so they just do it?
I guess I didn't get one part of your question.
Sure. Like some bigger companies, yeah.
Yeah.
So they advertise their games using like celebrities, for example. Like
You're using what? Sorry.
Celebrities.
Like, celebrities. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
That's a part I didn't get.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Right. Would I do that? Well, you have to see again. The celebrity would have to connect very much with the specific audience that you are targeting with your game, and then the price for it would have to be right. If the celebrity expects to just have a cash out opportunity on your back without further concern, then probably it will be too expensive for you. So I mean, let's say it wouldn't be my first idea, but I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It would have to be the right context for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Hello. First of all, I want to say thanks for arriving in Ukraine in this time because we
Mhm.
have a really hot summer
Mhm.
and bombs also not so much pleasant. So my question is about psychological support your employee because how you say it's not you not always have opportunity give them a good salary and also good project not always you have.
Yeah.
So how you can support your employees so that the company doesn't have constant atmosphere I'll be here for a few months and I leave. So
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I think from my perspective, you must not like patronize too much, like think too much about it, because employees are adult and they can look after themselves, and they might not actually like you getting too much into their own problems. So you have to, I would rather advocate taking some distance. Actually, I remember former employees who became friends after they stopped being employees because I'd rather have that distance when they were employees, so that the problem with friendship and subordination at the same time is that it's not easy to manage. So there's that, but of course there are points in the business where you have to intervene when there are conflicts between employees and one of them is wrong and the other one is right, and that's also a mistake I didn't write, but I could have. Yeah, if you fail to act when you have to, the consequences will be bad. I have I had my best programmer at some point who had interpersonal issues, and he kind of insulted my assistant in front of everybody with some racist and sexist insults. And at first, I failed to act on that, and this. Because I was afraid that he would leave and he was key on a project, but eventually she left, and anyway he had to leave shortly after that because from there it was not recoverable. So I think you just can't afford to let things go on when it's really bad. You have to intervene when you have to, but it doesn't mean you have to micromanage everything that's happening.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm Eugene,
Yeah.
making games in Go Kids company.
Mhm.
My question is, why didn't you grow into a bigger company during this time? What stopped you, or
Well,
was it your choice, or?
yeah, why didn't I tried at some point, I failed, so I think that's that's an answer. Again, you must not try it until you really have the fundamentals for it, and I never really managed to build the fundamentals for that, unfortunately. So yeah, I, uh, I think grow. Yeah, you must grow once you have a good income per person and once you have a stable business flow. And if you try without having that, like I did, then you better not.
Thank you. Thank you, Jan. Unfortunately, we are running out of time.